What if the life that you're waiting to start is already the one that God is building? I don't believe that God is so concerned about our perfect life, nor is anyone else. The foundation needs to be built, but it needs to be built on honesty. I'm going to encourage you to have some courage to walk through it, because courage is the muscle that makes that faith move. It's about the daily practice. And if you mess up in the daily practice, then just start over again. You're listening to Build It Messy, the podcast for women who are ready to stop waiting until they have it all together and start building the life that's been calling their name. I'm your host, Kimberly A. I'd like to welcome you each week as we have honest conversations about faith, family, forgotten dreams, and the courage it takes to go after what God planted in you long before life got loud. Because here's what I know to be true. The most beautiful things, they don't start clean. They start messy. So let's get into it. Hey there, it's Kimberly A, and welcome to Build It Messy. So glad to have you back here. And I have a question for you. What if the life that you're waiting to start is already the one that God is building? That is a pretty profound thought. Oftentimes, I believe God's working in the background and we're not even aware of it. There are things in our lives that He's protected us from, people that He's put in our path to talk to, divine appointments that could change our life forever. So when you build something, I know for us, since we're builders, when we're building, the first thing that we do if we're constructing a new building is we pour the foundation. Recently, we had just poured a foundation at one of the construction projects that we're on. And I walked around that foundation and I noticed just how firm it was, how precisely drawn, cement poured into, slab poured, just how precise everything was. And after you do that, you have to get a foundation inspection just to make sure that everything's done the right way. As I was walking around the job site, it made me think about my own life. What foundations have I poured in my life over the years? Is it strong enough to withstand the storms of life? Has it served me well? Has it served others that are in my life well? Have I curated it enough? You know, the world tells us to curate, but I truly believe that God wants us to confess. He wants us to come before Him and He wants us to confess, to surrender, and to be available. I don't believe that God is so concerned about our perfect life, nor is anyone else really concerned about our perfect life. Life is not perfect. And as my title is, Build It Messy, because things can get messy. So let's talk about foundation. As I alluded to earlier, the foundation of a house has to be strong in order for the walls to go up on either side, in order for there to be a roof on top. The foundation has to be super strong to hold all of that, you know, to withstand the weather, the wind, the snow, all the other elements that could hit it. Our lives have a lot of storms that hit us too. So when I think about foundation for my life and the questions that I was asking as I was walking around that job site, I started really thinking about the processes and what I do in my own life to build that foundation. What are my daily practices? What are the things that I do on a daily basis that's going to build that foundation and make it even stronger? I want you to think about that. What are you doing on a daily basis to build your foundation? All of us have different practices that we do each day. Some of my girlfriends get up super early and they go work out and they're set for the day. I wake up really early. I have my lemon water and my coffee afterwards, but you can usually find me on my couch and I'm reading my Bible. Right now, I'm parked in the book of John, but I'm reading my Bible that I'm journaling and I'm praying through everything that I've read. Because during that time for me, and my quiet time, I call it, is when the Lord really speaks to me. He speaks to me about people in my life that need prayer, and He speaks to me about things in my life that really need to be surrendered. So then I began to confess, and then I just make myself available for the things that God's telling me to do. But I have to, during that time, also take an inventory, an honest inventory of seeing where I am. So, in building this, I take my time where I sit still, I start going through everything, and I just ask the Lord to show me the areas in my life that need refining, the areas in my life that are working well, the areas or my talents, how I can be using those, like we talked about last week about our natural talents that God gives us, our natural abilities are really to be used to bless others. Am I blessing others with my natural abilities? That's when I have to really stop and think the foundation needs to be built, but it needs to be built on honesty. So I'm just going through my inventory list of everything. And sometimes I even ask a really close friend of mine or friends to help me evaluate where I'm at. Help me to see where are some cracks in my foundation, where are some things that could potentially cause me to collapse in the future, and really honestly look at those situations and look at those things in my life so that I can get better. And then I must tell you, every single time when I do that, it's like I'm looking back thinking, oh, wow, this is where faith comes in because there are things that come up in that quiet time that I really feel like God's telling me to do even if I'm not ready. This podcast is a really good example of that. I don't feel like I've been ready to do this. I don't feel like I've been equipped to do this, but I've been walking through it because I took the time to honestly look at everything, take inventory of everything, and go out on the ledge and have a little bit of faith that He's telling me to walk this way. Recently, I had a conversation with my youngest son. And I just mentioned in the conversation that I just observed a couple of things the last time that we were together that I'd honestly really like for him to get better at. And he said, Really? I said, Yeah, I'll share them with you one day if you want me to. And he said to me, Oh no, Kimberly A., just let it fly. So I started going through a couple of things when I was talking to him. Of course, I'm giving him accolades of compliments with some of the amazing things that I noticed and how he is in his life. But then he gave me the permission to talk about some things that I really felt like he needed to work on the person that he's becoming. One thing I realized is that at a young in his early 20s, he's really maturing and he's listening to what other people are saying. And he's taken inventory of his life because he realizes that his foundation is firm because of how he's been raised, but his foundation has been shaken a little bit by some of the things that the world has been hitting him with. So to have somebody come in that he knows loves him to say, these little areas, I could see where you could tweak this. You could think about this a little bit more. You could do an inventory of your own life. And more importantly, just bring it before the Lord. And while you're doing your Bible reading, just journal it. And he said, Yes, the journaling. That's what got us off on another tangent was I'm a journaler. I've been journaling since I was 12. And I've noticed that throughout these years, my journaling, as I was telling him, my journaling has actually been my therapist. It's been amazing. And it's also really amazing to go back and read my journals. Some I kind of, like chagrin. Oh gosh, I can't believe I said that, or I can't believe I wrote that. But there are some common themes through my journaling that I see that has really developed me into the person that I am today. I'm going to go back and ask this question again. What if the life that you've been waiting to start is one that God is already building. And He's already building it with the foundation that you're working on a daily basis. He's also building it with the faith that you're taking, with the steps moving toward what He's calling you to do, even when you're not ready. Think about some of the things in your life right now that you just really feel the prodding to move toward, but you don't feel ready. I'm going to encourage you to have some courage to walk through it, because courage is the muscle that makes that faith move. Ha, the muscle that makes that faith move. That reminds me of, I think it was almost 2 years ago. My husband bought me a gym membership to our gym right up the street. And I thought, how crazy. I had no interest in going to this gym, really, because this gym is one of those gyms that is all set up for weight building, training, all this stuff. People are super serious when they walk into that gym. I've gone into some gyms where people are just on their phone all the time and are talking next to the weight machines, not this gym. When you walk in this gym, everybody's very serious, very focused, knows what they're doing. And my husband bought me a membership to this gym. I walked into that gym and I tried to work out at some of the equipment, some of the weight machines, had no idea how to even do it. I was over on the tricep because I really want to work my arms. I was on the tricep machine, and the owner of the gym walked up to me and he just lightly touched the side of my arm to show me I wasn't doing it right and how to do it. And I thanked him. I thought that's really cool that he took the time to do that. Well, then a little bit later, I was on the rowing machine and I noticed that I just started crying. I just lost it. I thought, I don't even know what I'm doing in this place. And why am I even here? And why did my husband even buy this membership to begin with? So I was over on the bike and I was just kind of slowly doing the bike a little bit. And the owner of the gym walked up to me and he said, "So, how are you doing?" And I said, "Not so good, honestly. I don't even know what I'm doing in here. I don't even know how to do anything." And I asked him, I said, "Will you train me?" And he looked at me and he said, "Oh, Kimber, there's no way I can do that. I have too many clients. I just can't fit you in." And this guy is very highly sought after. So I understood and I completely understood where he was coming from. And I had told him, I said, I just want arms like Cheryl. That's a friend of mine. I just want arms like Cheryl. And I just want to be able to, know what I'm doing when I come in here. And I had trained with another trainer in there, but I had completely forgotten about everything that she had taught me, unfortunately. And she was a good trainer. So anyway, when he was telling me that, I just thought, okay, that's fine. I'll just learn it. I'll just figure it out. And a little bit later, he comes up to me when I'm on this other machine and he said, "You know what? I will. I'll train you." And I said, "Thank you." Well, we've been training now for over 2 years, 2.5 years. A little history behind that. He has helped me tremendously. My confidence level has gotten up. Even when I travel, I work out more. And now I understand how to do all of the machines, not every single one of them, but I'm not intimidated to ask for help if I need it. Okay, so where does this fall in line with what I'm talking about? With the foundation, with doing an inventory of where you're at in your life and being honest with where you're at, having the faith to walk towards the things that you feel like the Lord's leading you to, and then having the courage to walk through it. Well, my gym experience was definitely one of my foundations that needed to be honed in on. I needed to pay attention to my physical activity. And then I needed to pay attention to having the next steps and the faith to walk through it. And then my third thing was the courage to do it, even though it was embarrassing at times. Just last week, I went in for my workout and I was flipping out. I just could not believe. He just looked at me. It was during our session and he said, "What is wrong with you?" And I said, I can't do all this stuff." And he said, "What stuff?" And I said, "Everything with my podcast. I feel like I'm failing." And he said, "Oh, no, you're not failing. you're just moving forward. You're just moving forward in something that you don't understand, something that's completely new to you. And I'm hoping that all of this is resonating because it's not easy doing the hard things. It's not easy doing the new things. Yeah, I've been running a business for over 22 years and I'm very happy, very good at doing all that. But this whole new thing has just been really difficult for me. But it's about the daily practice, the daily practice. And if you mess up in the daily practice, then just start over again. I want you to take this action today. I want you to evaluate your foundation. I want you to think about where you are honestly. Do an honest inventory. And if you need to call a really trusted friend in to help you, someone that's going to support you, not keep score, someone that's going to help you and encourage you and be honest with you in love. I really truly believe that that honest inventory is what helps you get better. And then have the faith just to walk toward it. The faith that you know you're being called to do, just to walk toward it, and the courage to walk through it. And on the other side of that, as you look back over the days, over the weeks, over the months, you're going to see so much growth in who you've become that it's going to really give you even more energy to become even better. Because when we're better, when we are solid in our foundation and willing to take that next step in faith, and just having that little 10 seconds of courage to walk through it, amazing things happen in our lives and in those lives that we influence all around us. I've always said it, things might be messy, but stay faithful and stay consistent, and you'll see your rewards. Thank you for joining me today. Hey, if today's episode hit home, I'd love for you to share it with a woman in your life who really needs to hear it. And also leave a review. If this podcast is becoming a part of your journey, it sure means the world to us, and it will help us reach more women who are ready to build. If you're feeling that pull, that quiet voice saying, it's time, I want to invite you to take this next step. There's a link in the show notes to book a 30-minute discovery call with me. Just come as you are. We'll figure out the rest together. So until next time, start messy, stay faithful, and keep building. I'm Kimberly A. This is Build It Messy, and I'll see you next week.